I take a slow breath, darling, and I can almost taste that warm strawberry pie Mom used to bake every Sunday. I can still smell that sweet tang drifting through our little farmhouse kitchen, mixing with the earthy scent of hay from the barn. It's a late summer evening in Harlan County, Kentucky, around dinner time, and the cicadas are humming their lullaby outside the window. I'm sitting right here on this creaky rocking chair, and something stirred in my chest tonight, pulled me back to when I was 16, dreaming of Nashville and stages lit up like Broadway. You see, I've carried this memory, tucked it away in an old cassette labeled Evelyn, Summer 68, and tonight it came fluttering back, like a moth to a porch light. I want you to lean in just a smidge, because what I'm about to share is more than just a dusty recollection. It's the heartbeat of my life, and it's been echoing in my soul for 54 years. Here in this moment, the crickets and the clink of dishes in the kitchen behind me are the orchestra to my thoughts. It was August back then, hot enough to make your shirt stick to your skin, and I just finished singing at Sunday service when my sister Lily slipped a letter into my hand, said it was from the college in Nashville. My heart did a flip, sugar, thinking I'd made it. But I didn't see the switch she'd made, that she'd signed her name in my place and boarded that bus at dawn, leaving me with a hollow ache I couldn't name. If this memory tugs at your heartstrings like it does mine, tap that like button, or better yet, leave me a sweet note below. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because I've got stories that'll warm your soul and maybe, just maybe, heal a piece of your own heart. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. That day, the sky was a boilerplate blue, and I remember gripping the porch railing so hard my knuckles turned white. I watched Lily vanish down the dusty road, her suitcase bouncing at her side, and in that moment, a part of me went missing too. It's funny, when you're young, you think moments like that will pass. You reckon you'll shake it off with the next sunrise. But this memory didn't fade. It nestled into my ribcage and sang its own silent song every time I heard a guitar strum or a church bell ring. Tonight, you and I are transported back to that porch, to the warmth of the fading sun on my face and the echo of my own unheard voice. I can't shake it because it's the voice that was meant to carry me to bigger stages, to bright lights, to Nashville dreams. And yet it remained silent, held captive by a promise someone else made in my name. So here we are, and I'm telling you this, because I need you to feel it as much as I do, the sweetness of possibility, the sting of betrayal, and the way a single note of a song can carry an entire lifetime of longing. Keep listening, my dear, because this storm of memory has many layers, and I promise you, by the end, you'll know why the story, this feeling, has never let me rest. I remember waking before the sun crept over the rolling hills of Harlan County, Kentucky, my small feet padding across the wooden floorboards toward the kitchen where Mama's kettle whistled like a friendly robin greeting the morning. The farmhouse set nestled between fields of tall, golden hay that rustled in the gentle breeze, and beyond that, the coal mine's tipple loomed, a constant reminder of Daddy's long, dusty days underground. I was just a girl of maybe 10 or 11 then, with 2 plates swinging down my back and a heart full of simple dreams, dreams of music drifting from church pews, of laughter shared on the front porch, of a world bigger than those green hills. Every Sunday, I'd watch the congregation file into the little wooden church painted white with its steeple reaching skyward, and I'd imagine my voice ringing clear above the hymns, lifting people's spirits like a soft prayer. I believed then that kindness was the greatest gift we could give, and that somehow, people always found their way back to what was good in their hearts. Life moved with the seasons, planting and harvest, the cold hush of winter when we'd huddle by the fireplace listening to Mama's embroidered quilt swish as she stitched, and the riot of wildflowers in spring when Lily and I would chase butterflies through the pasture. Our laughter echoing across the fields. Our family was proud although poor. Daddy came home each night with coal dust on his sleeves, and Mama sold her delicate lace and flowers stitched in vibrant threads at the market in town. Sometimes I'd sit by her side, tracing the patterns with my fingertip, dreaming that one day I, too, might stitch something beautiful. But mostly I dreamed of singing, of feeling the notes rise up inside me like a fountain of hope and wonder. My sister Lily was my shadow and my sunshine. One minute she'd be pinching my cheeks until I squealed. The next she'd be teaching me bold new steps to dance barefoot in the summer grass. She was a year older, always daring and confident, lighting up every room she entered. I was content to follow, to fade into her brightness, believing that was how sisters were meant to be, inseparable, two halves of the same heart. And yet, even then, I knew Lily's spirit was a flame I could never quite match, no matter how high I sang or how loud I laughed. School days were simple. We walked the dirt road with books under our arms, greeting neighbors who tipped their hats and called, "Morning, Miss Evelyn," or "Morning, Miss Lily." At home, after supper, Daddy would settle into his favorite rocking chair with a mug of strong coffee, and Mama would light the kerosene lamp while Lily and I shared tales of what we'd learned: fractions and spelling for me, history and geography for Lily. I loved it all, but it was the music that filled me up. I'd hum as I washed the dishes, and when the moon was high, I'd tiptoe to the attic where that old piano sat, its keys yellowed and stubborn, and pluck out simple melodies in the hush of midnight. Those were the moments I felt most alive, most myself. By the time I turned 16, my dreams had sharpened into something I believed could carry me beyond those fields and dusty roads. I pictured myself in Nashville, belting out songs on a proper stage, my name in lights, my voice bringing joy to strangers' hearts just as the hymns did in our church. I didn't know then how fragile dreams could be, how a single act could send them skittering away like dandelion seeds on a gust of wind. But in that innocent, hopeful time, I felt the world was full of promise, and I was ready to claim every bright star it offered. And that, dear listener, is where my story truly begins, at the edge of childhood, with a heart full of melody and a safety net woven of faith and family. Back then, I thought life would always follow the gentle rhythm of those days, that kindness and love would carry me through. Little did I know, the greatest test of my spirit and my dreams was still waiting just over the horizon. One humid afternoon, when the sun hung heavy in the sky and the cicadas droned their eternal song, a knock sounded at our kitchen door that would change everything. Mama was kneading dough for our Sunday pie, and Daddy was reading his letter from the coal company, but I nearly dropped my wooden spoon when Mrs. Hargrove, our kindly next-door neighbor, stepped in holding a crisp, cream-colored envelope with Evelyn May Collins scrawled across it in neat, looping handwriting. My heart did a curious little flip. At 16, I'd never seen my name in such fancy script, and I couldn't explain why my pulse jumped faster than a rabbit in a fox hunt. As Mama wiped her flour-dusted hands on her apron and Daddy set aside his pipe, Lily drifted in from the porch, curiosity lighting her eyes. Mrs. Hargrove cleared her throat politely, as if she knew the weight that letter carried, and I felt a flutter of anticipation so strong it made my knees wobble under the wooden stool where I'd been perched. When I finally tore open the seal, the soft scent of lavender-scented paper wafted up, and there it was, an acceptance letter to the Nashville Conservatory of Music and Arts, offering me a scholarship and my wildest dreams all wrapped in ribbon sentences. I looked up at Mama, whose eyes glistened with proud tears, and at Daddy, whose stoic face broke into a gentle, proud smile that crinkled the corners of his coal-blackened eyes. Lily, meanwhile, gave me a playful nudge and said, "Well, Evelyn, I always knew you had that Broadway sparkle in you." Her voice sounded affectionate, but beneath her grin I sensed something like hunger or envy glimmering in her eyes. Before I could catch the meaning of that flicker, I danced around the kitchen, clutching the letter as if it were the last rose in a winter garden. In that moment, I felt unstoppable, as though the entire world had aligned to lift me up and carry me to starlit stages. It wasn't only the letter that surprised me, it was the arrival of Mr. Thompson, my high school music teacher, who burst through the back door clutching his battered sheet music folder. He'd driven all the way from town, beaming ear to ear, and called me by my full name as if I'd already performed at Carnegie Hall. My first real crush, Tommy Radcliffe, happened to wander by the fence, his freckled face turning rosy when Lily waved him in, and he offered me a shy thumbs up before ducking back outside. Even the old church piano seemed to sing under the sunlight that afternoon, its ivory keys gleaming like pearls, as if cheering me on. Surrounded by the people who had watched me grow, from Mama's careful stitching to Daddy's hard-earned lessons about honesty, from Mrs. Hargrove's kindness to Mr. Thompson's unwavering belief, I felt a surge of belonging stronger than any I'd known. Yet, underneath that thrill of promise, a tiny voice in my chest whispered caution, reminding me that sometimes the sweetest fruits hide the deepest thorns. I glanced at Lily, her smile fixed, but her eyes shadowed with something I couldn't name, and a flicker of doubt rippled across my excitement. But in that charged moment, all I could feel was the warm weight of possibility pressing against my ribs and the promise of a future that stretched far beyond our dusty roads. It was as if the whole world had paused just long enough for me to step forward, and step I would, into a bright new life I believed was mine. I tucked the letter into my apron pocket, the heavy thought of it against my hip echoing the new rhythm in my heart, and promised myself I would never let go of this chance. Little did I know, the journey that began with that single sheet of paper would test not only my voice, but the very core of who I thought I was. I remember that first morning after the letter when the sun rose too quickly and everything felt off kilter. I woke with my heart pounding, clutching my acceptance letter like a lifeline, only to find the kitchen table stripped bare, Mama's lace-trimmed tablecloth folded neatly in the cupboard, Daddy's lunch pail already packed. And there, perched on the edge of the table, was Lily's suitcase, zipped shut, her white gloves laid atop it in a mocking invitation. My chest tightened as I stepped closer, my fingers trembling against the cool metal clasp, and I realized that something fundamental had shifted. The dream I held so tenderly was now tangled in sisterly betrayal. I felt a wave of anger crash through me, hot, fierce, and unexpected, because I had believed our bond was unbreakable, that we were two halves of the same whole. Yet here, in the early morning light, I saw that Lily had staked her claim not only on my future, but on my very identity. When I confronted her, my voice cracked, and all I could manage was, "Where are you going, Lily?" She looked back with those familiar brown eyes, wide and defiant, and said, "Nashville's waiting for me, Evelyn. You'd have slowed me down." In that instant, shame bloomed in my belly, shame that I'd dared to dream bigger than this town, shame that I'd ever thought I could step out of Lily's shadow. I felt ashamed to my bones as Mama hovered in the doorway, her face a portrait of quiet sorrow, and Daddy stood silent, his shoulders slumped as if bearing the weight of both our disappointments. The world seemed to contract around me, the walls of our tiny kitchen closing in like the walls of a cell. Outside, the neighbors whispered over the fence, their voices carrying like wind, "Poor Evelyn, alone now, and Lily's got a fire in her belly." Their pity felt like salt on an open wound, and I retreated to the barn loft where dust motes danced in slanting rays of sun. I sank onto an old bale of hay, wrapped my arms around my knees, and let the tears come, tears for the sister I thought I knew, tears for the future that felt snatched away, tears for the fear that whispered I'd never sing again. Beneath that sorrow was a coil of fear and uncertainty, fear that I was too timid, too quiet, too ordinary to ever reclaim what was stolen, uncertainty about who I was without that dream poised before me. Days turned into a blur of routine. I delivered milk bottles door to door, sorted letters at the tiny post office, and helped Mama mend quilts to sell at the market. Lily's absence was a ghost at my elbow, reminding me with every passing hour that the taste of opportunity had turned to ash. Yet in that lonely ache, a small spark of resilience began to glow. Mrs. Hargrove, our neighbor, slipped me a stack of hymnals one afternoon, whispering, "Your voice deserves to soar, Evelyn, even if it's just here." I tucked them under my arm, feeling a flicker of gratitude for her kindness, though guilt nipped at my heels, guilt that I'd let Lily take what was rightfully mine, and guilt that I doubted my worth. Inside, my heart waged a quiet war. One side clung to the memory of that crisp envelope in my hand, the other bowed under the weight of shame and self-doubt. I wondered if I'd ever find the courage to stand in front of an audience again, to feel that rush of music pulsing through me. The conflict was relentless. Anger at Lily's audacity, sorrow for the path I'd lost, fear that I'd never be enough. And yet, through the haze of those emotions, a single truth emerged, that life isn't defined by one moment of betrayal, but by the choices we make when the world seems to crumble. Speaking my fears out loud felt like admitting defeat, but in those quiet moments of reflection, I realized that I had a choice: to let this loss define me, or to forge a new path from the ashes of my dreams. It was in that stillness, amidst the lingering dust and the scent of hay and heartbreak, that I made a promise to myself. I would not let this betrayal steal the song in my soul. And though I didn't yet know how I would reclaim my voice, that vow became the seed of something stronger, something that would carry me through years of silence and sorrow until, at 70, I finally found the courage to sing again. I remember that day as though time simply paused, like the world held its breath, and the sun hovered in perfect stillness. It was early dawn when Lily and I stood on the edge of that dusty road, the horizon painted in bruised purples and pinks, and I clutched my acceptance letter to Nashville with trembling fingers. My heart felt as light as the envelope in my hand, yet when Lily slipped her arm through mine, her grip was cold and sure. We were 16, and the whole world lay before us, or so I believed. Then she turned to me, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the rising sun, and said, "I can't let this chance slip away, Evelyn. Not again." I glanced down at the letter, then back to her face, searching for the sister I knew, the one who laughed barefoot in the meadow and taught me silly dances under the porch light. But she was gone. A freight train's mournful whistle split the air, and I heard a clock click once, twice, and then stop entirely, though the hands never moved. My knees buckled as Lily unzipped my name from that crisp envelope, as if she'd ripped out a piece of my soul. "I've done this for us," she said, every word a dagger twisting inside me. I could taste the metallic tang of shock and feel the sting of betrayal burning behind my eyes. Mama's soft sob drifted from the farmhouse door, and Daddy's heavy boots thudded in the silence, but their voices were distant echoes. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart, the thrum of grief that drowned out the cicadas, the hum of morning chores, even the song that used to fill me with hope. I tried to speak, to scream, to demand what was rightfully mine, my dream, my identity, my future. But my voice faltered and crumbled into a whisper so faint even I could barely hear it. In that moment, I lost more than a ticket to Nashville. I lost the belief that kindness alone would carry me through life. I realized with cold clarity that people, those we love most, can betray us in ways we never imagine. The letter, once a promise, lay limp in my hand, its edges curled like the wings of a secret bird that had flown away. Lily's suitcase thumped against the wooden planks as she stepped onto the bus, my bus, her silhouette framed by the rising sun. Everything I was and everything I hoped to become was slipping beyond my reach. Yet in the raw depths of that pain, a fierce ember ignited inside me. As the bus turned away, lifting Lily farther with every turn of its wheels, I felt the weight of loss press me to the ground, and in that pressure something hardened. I rose from the dust, my knees stiff and my spirit trembling, and I vowed that this betrayal would not define me. Though my voice was silenced that day, I promised myself I would one day reclaim every note that was stolen, that I would find my way back from the shadow into which I had been cast. The betrayal cut deeper than any sorrow I had known, but in its jagged edges I found a clarity of purpose. That moment, when the clock stopped and the world stood still, is etched into me like the last chord of a song. It was the breaking point, the moment my life splintered into before and after. I lost my confidence, my sister, my dream of Nashville, yet I gained something more profound, the unbreakable resolve to heal, to rise, and to one day, with hands that no longer tremble, sing my own name into the open air. Even now, decades later, I can feel the hush of that morning and the echo of my broken promise, and I carry it with me as a wound and also as a spark that lit the path back to myself. After that dawn when my world shattered, I drifted through the days as though I were a ghost haunting the edges of my own life. The piano in the attic remained silent, its keys untouched by my trembling fingers, and the church pews felt empty without my hopeful voice echoing against the wooden rafters. I went through the motions, helped Mama with the washing, sorted letters at the post office, taught Jenny to ride her bicycle down the rutted dirt road. But inside, there was a hollowness, a cold ache where my dreams had lived. I remember lying awake at night, heart heavy as the moonlight slid through my window, wondering if the music inside me had died for good. I felt adrift, untethered from the sister I had loved and from the future I had dared to imagine. Every note I once carried so easily sat buried in my throat like a secret I could no longer claim. Days turned into months, and the seasons changed without me noticing. Fall's golden blaze gave way to winter's brittle gray, and I walked through each with my eyes fixed on the ground. My faith in kindness, once absolute, felt naive, as though the world had shown me its darker corners and left no room for trust. Neighbors still greeted me kindly, but their words felt distant, like echoes bouncing off a canyon wall. Lily's laughter floated back to me on occasional wind gusts, reminding me that she lived only 2 hours down the highway, her voice filling halls I could only dream of. Sometimes I thought of writing her a letter, pouring out my grief and anger, but the words in my pen froze when I tried to form them. Shame and sorrow shackled my tongue. Even in that icy stillness, a quiet curiosity began to bloom. I noticed the edges of life I'd once ignored. The way the first crocus pushed through the snow in early spring, the laughter of children chasing fireflies on warm summer nights, the way Jenny's green eyes shone when she told me stories of school. In those small moments, I felt a flicker of warmth, an ember of life not yet extinguished. One afternoon, Mrs. Hargrove found me perched on the back steps, staring at the closed attic door. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder and said, "Evelyn, your song is still in there, waiting." Her words cut through the numbness like sunlight through fog. For the first time in months, I wondered if I could find my voice again, not for a grand stage in Nashville, but for myself, to heal the emptiness, to honor the girl I once was, and to reclaim the faith I had lost in people and in life itself. In that long, quiet season, I learned that loss doesn't always arrive in dramatic bursts of pain. Sometimes it creeps in like winter's chill, stealing warmth and color until we forget what spring feels like. But I also learned that even in the coldest silence, there is a space for renewal. My faith in others had been shaken, but not destroyed. My trust in myself had dimmed, but there remained a spark, faint though it was, beckoning me forward. And so I began to gather the fragments of my life, piece by fragile piece, memories of laughter, small acts of kindness, the steady love I gave to my daughter, and I tucked them close to my heart, a promise that one day I would step back into the light and sing again. That spark of hope came one crisp autumn morning when I was delivering Jenny's lunch pail to the school cafeteria and passed by the old community hall. I heard discordant chords echoing through the doorway. Somewhere in the back room, the children were rehearsing for their harvest festival play, their voices shy and cracking like autumn leaves underfoot. I paused, leaning against the cool brick, and felt something stir deep inside me, an ache and a longing I hadn't dared name in years. Mrs. Jenkins, who ran the bake sale table at these events, spotted me and waved me inside. "Evelyn," she called, "we're one singer short for the finale hymn. Would you lend your voice? Just one little song." My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment I hesitated, the old fears whispering that my voice had been lost forever. Then I looked at those children, their faces bright with expectation, and remembered the girl I had once been, the girl who believed her song could lift hearts and light up a room. So I nodded, smoothing my apron and stepping onto that makeshift stage of wooden planks and scuffed floorboards. I clasped the microphone with trembling hands, glanced at the rows of folding chairs filled with neighbors and families, and took a deep breath. As I opened my mouth to sing Amazing Grace, the first soft notes slipped out like a greeting, familiar and warm. My voice wavered at first, but with each line it grew steadier, richer, weaving through the rafters and spilling into the crisp air. In that moment, I felt the weight of decades slide off my shoulders, my shame, my sorrow, my silence, and in its place bloomed a fragile hope, as gentle and persistent as a seedling breaking through frost-hardened soil. When the last note faded, a hush fell over the hall, followed by a ripple of applause that sounded like rain after a drought. Mrs. Jenkins beamed, the children clapped, and I found myself smiling back, a warmth spreading through my chest. That brief performance didn't catapult me onto grand stages or fill my pockets with fame, but it lit a candle inside me, a reminder that even after years of silence, a single song can stir the soul and set a weary heart to flying again. I realized then that hope doesn't always arrive in a blazing spotlight. Sometimes it comes in small, unexpected invitations, an echo through a doorway, an earnest request from a neighbor, the simple kindness of a community that still believes in you. With cautious optimism, I tucked that memory close, promising myself to answer the next call, to nurture that ember of possibility, and to let my voice find its way back into the world, one small psalm at a time. I stood in the fading light of the attic, surrounded by dusty boxes and forgotten echoes of my younger self. In my hands, I held that old cassette, the one marked Evelyn, Summer '68, its plastic case scratched and yellowed. For decades, it had been a reminder of what was taken from me, a promise betrayed, a dream deferred. My fingers trembled as I lifted the tape from its home, and I could feel the weight of every unspoken word, every stifled note, and every unclaimed moment pressing down on my chest. In that quiet hush, I realized I had carried this burden for far too long, letting guilt and grief chain me to a past that could neither be changed nor undone. I pressed eject, and the tape slipped free, dangling between my thumb and forefinger like a fragile lifeline. For a heartbeat, I imagined slipping it back into its box and sealing the lid, stashing away the pain one more time. But then I thought of Lily, her bright promise swallowed by that same tape, and I thought of the girl I was, whose heart still fluttered at the memory of song. And I understood that holding on to this relic was not honoring her, it was imprisoning myself. With a slow exhale, I set the cassette on the attic floor and pressed my foot down until the plastic cracked. The sound of it splitting open echoed through the rafters, like the breaking of old chains. Tears sprang to my eyes, not of sorrow, but of release. In the attic light, I watched the tape unwind, the magnetic ribbon spilling out in dark loops at my feet. It looked like ribbon memories unfurling, and as it lay there, I felt the last threads of my shame untangle. I whispered, "I forgive you, Lily, and I forgive myself." My voice caught on the final syllable, but I held on to the words as if they were a new hymn rising from the dust. That act, simple, symbolic, and irrevocable, rippled through me. I felt a warmth thawing the years of frozen grief. I understood that the past would always be part of me, but it no longer had power to define me. I carried the broken pieces outside, where the evening wind scattered them across the lawn like confetti of forgiveness. Each fragment danced away until there was nothing left but the promise of tomorrow. In the days that followed, my world shifted in small but profound ways. I found myself humming as I moved through my kitchen, melody returning to my fingertips. I took my guitar down from its stand, tuned each string with deliberate care, and played simple chords I hadn't touched in years. Notes once trapped in silence now poured out, full and bright. When Jenny visited, she found me on the porch, singing softly to the fading light, and she paused, tears glistening in her eyes, whispering, "Mama, you sound like you've found yourself again." I chose to live without resentment, without the heavy cloak of regret. I welcomed joy where it could be found, in the laughter of neighbors at Sunday service, in Ellie's eager voice as she practiced her own songs, in the soft rustle of summer leaves. I embraced the knowledge that forgiveness was not a gift to Lily alone, but a gift to myself, the freedom to shape the rest of my story with courage and grace. And so I stepped into the next chapter of my life with a heart unburdened, my voice lifted in gratitude and hope. I had made my choice, to honor the past but not be held by it, to carry my song proudly, even if only for a small stage, to live simply, beautifully onward. Because at 70, I realized that the greatest melody is the one we compose from the ashes of what we've lost, and sing with all the strength our souls can summon. I used to think that life was something that happened to you. You made plans, you followed the path, and somehow the universe would deliver what you deserved. At 16, I believed that a single letter could chart the course of my destiny, and when it was yanked away, I felt as though the ground had opened beneath me. For decades, I held on to that idea, that my worth was tied to stages and spotlights, to applause I never heard, to dreams I never chased. But now, at 70, standing on a small platform in our church, guitar in hand and a congregation of familiar faces before me, I realize the truth isn't about the grand moments we imagine in youth. It's about the quiet ones we might almost miss, the flicker of birdsong outside the window, the warmth of a grandchild's hand in yours, the note of a hymn rising in unison around you. I've learned that identity isn't a prize to be seized or stolen, it's a light we carry within, and no act of betrayal can snuff it out unless we let it. My sister may have boarded the bus with my name on that letter, but she never carried my voice, my heart, or the simple, steadfast joy I found in song. In the years I spent in hush and shame, I believed that kindness would carry me forward without struggle, but life taught me that goodness and pain often walk hand in hand. It was in the aftermath of betrayal that I discovered resilience, the way our spirits can bend without breaking when we allow ourselves to feel, to grieve, and to heal in our own time. Perhaps the most important lesson I've carried is that forgiveness isn't something we do for others, it's the gift we give ourselves so we can step into the light again. When I crushed that old cassette tape in the attic, I wasn't just destroying a relic of sorrow, I was freeing my own heart from a prison of regret. In letting go of what held me back, I found the courage to say yes to new songs, new stages, new mornings filled with possibility rather than echoes of what could have been. This isn't a lesson born of platitudes or easy answers. It's a truth forged in tears, in silence, in the long nights after the music died inside me. It's the reminder that our worth doesn't hinge on a single opportunity, that our voices, no matter how long they've been silent, can still find resonance in unexpected places, and that our capacity to love and to forgive can lead us back to ourselves, even when we've been lost for years. So if you're watching this and find yourself waiting for the perfect time, the perfect moment, the perfect chance, I hope you'll consider what happens if you stop waiting and start living the story you were meant to tell. Maybe it's time to sing that song in your car, to pick up the paintbrush, to speak the words you've been holding in your heart. Because the greatest wisdom I've gleaned isn't about holding on to dreams until they arrive. It's about planting new ones wherever you are, no matter your age or your past. In doing so, you may discover that the song you thought was lost was simply waiting for you to remember how to sing. I want you to imagine us sitting here together on this old front porch, the evening sky painted in shades of lavender and rose, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of honeysuckle. I take a slow breath and feel the warmth of this moment settle in my bones, because this story isn't just about what happened 50 years ago. It's about how the choices we make then still ripple through our lives today. When Lily finally appeared at my Sunday service, her eyes heavy with fatigue and regret, I felt something stir inside me that I hadn't felt for decades. Compassion mingled with curiosity. We didn't speak much that afternoon. Words felt too sharp for what needed to be said, but when the final hymn ended and the congregation's voices faded into a soft hum, I looked over and saw her lips trembling like the first leaf of autumn in the breeze. In that quiet look, I realized that true love, whether between sisters or sweethearts, doesn't always follow a straight path. Sometimes it wanders, sometimes it gets lost, and sometimes it finds its way back when we've learned to forgive ourselves and each other. I've spent 70 years learning that life's richest moments aren't reserved for the bright spotlight. They happen in the shared silence between old friends, in the soft echo of a song carried across pews, in the knowing smile of someone who's walked a similar road of regret and redemption. As I look out at you through the screen, I feel a kinship, because we're all travelers seeking a place where our voices feel at home, our hearts feel heard, and our stories feel understood. Over the years, I've found that the moments that matter most arrive unexpectedly, a helping hand after a fall, a shared laugh over an inside joke, a letter in the mail that reminds you someone still remembers who you are. These small acts of love and remembrance keep us tethered to one another, even when our paths diverge. When I think back on the day Lily stood beside me by that dusty road, I remember more than her betrayal. I remember the innocent excitement in her eyes, the way her laughter once rang like bells in the morning air, the way we used to chase fireflies together until the stars came out. And I understand now that the same sister who stole my dreams was also the one I once shared everything with, our childhood secrets, our hopes for the future, our whispered prayers in the church pews. That complexity, the intertwining of love and hurt, shaped both of us in ways we could not foresee. It taught me that people are not only what they take, they're also what they give, and sometimes they need forgiveness more than punishment. So I'm going to ask you something I haven't asked many. When you think of someone you once loved, be it a sister, a partner, a friend, do you believe there's a chance for that love to return? Do you think, like me, that even when our paths have strayed, the bond can find a gentle rekindling? And even more, do you believe that the greatest gift we can give each other is the grace to let go of the past and step into a future unburdened by old wounds? I'll admit, there are mornings when the memory of that stolen letter still tugs at my heart, reminding me of the pain I carried. But then I remember the light in Ellie's eyes when I sang at her graduation, the tears glistening in Jenny's smile when I helped her through her own heartbreak, and I know that my voice, my true voice, has found new purpose far beyond any grand stage. It's here in each loving word, each forgiving breath, each moment of connection. And sometimes, when the moon hangs low and the porch is quiet, I think I hear the echo of my own melody in the rustle of leaves, as if the past itself is humming along. What do you think? Should true love return? Should we hold fast to the hope that, no matter how long the winter, a thaw will come? Do you feel the soft tug of a love you once let slip, waiting for you to open your hand and welcome it home? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories of love lost and found, of forgiveness and second chances, because in sharing them, we remind each other that no heart is ever truly beyond repair. Sometimes, when I gaze at the distant stars, I wonder if that old love still remembers the promise we once held. And sometimes I think it might, if only we have the courage to believe it can.